Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition. I want to state that part clear when I review this because I will do a little backstory with the Ultimate Edition and kind of the story of this movie and kind of where this movie stumbled. But essentially, there's this huge debate with fans of which one's better, the theatrical version of the Ultimate Edition. Actually, I won't say huge debate. I think most people agree that the Ultimate Edition is better. I agree, but it's kind of one of those things where better doesn't actually make it a good movie still. It's very flawed. We'll get into it in a minute. But quick backstory with this movie. So, this is an awkward movie. Man of Steel, when you watch that movie, does not feel like the start to an extended universe. The Dark Knight trilogy had just wrapped up, and now we got this new Superman movie, and it was produced by Christopher Nolan. So it felt like maybe in some regards Zack Snyder was trying to go off the tone of those Batman movies, but also knowing that Christopher Nolan never wanted to make this whole thing an extended universe. I think Warner Brothers did, but it was just never going to work out that way. You know, this was 2011. This was right before the big Avengers movie, so they were kind of catching up a little bit. But basically, Zack Snyder started working on a Man of Steel 2. Warner Brothers came in, micromanaged, and said, no, throw Batman in there. We want this to be a setup to the Justice League because they saw the Avengers made it $1 billion. And to be honest, this was like the most hyped movie ever. Like this movie came out, I believe, in 2016. So it was this and Force Awakens were like the two movies that I don't know a single person who wasn't excited about. Problem was, none of them worked out too well for the franchise overall. Force Awakens made like $1 billion. This movie stumbled, and I think a lot of that is the fact that they recut this movie, and the marketing for this movie was terrible. But also, this movie was not the movie it should have been. We should have just gotten a straight Man of Steel 2. There is no reason that they should have crammed Batman and all these characters into this movie. It should have been like a post-credit scene of all that. And yeah, but that's kind of I wanted to say all of that so you kind of understand where this movie stumbles. From the very beginning, Warner Brothers was meddling with this movie. You had a creative visionary, and say what you will about Zack Snyder, he is a visionary. Like, he does have a vision with his stuff. You cannot like that vision. I definitely don't majority of the time. But he is a creative visionary, and you have a studio coming in and trying to tell him what he should do when he just made them a bunch of money with the last movie. But, so this movie is a mess. Where do I begin with it? First of all, they tried to address in this movie... Actually, let's just try and start with the positives, because most of this video is going to be me fucking complaining. All this is the last Superman movie I'm going to review, and then I have a couple documentaries and a animated series I'm going to talk about as the last video in this series. But yeah, I do want to talk about. But yeah, let's start with some positives. While this movie is very flawed, I see some of the attempts and some things almost work. They don't, but hey, they almost work. Man, this is so hard to think about positives with this movie. I really fucking hate this movie, guys. Ben Affleck is good casting as Batman. He's not good in this movie, but he's great casting as Batman. And I think some scenes with Batman almost work. He looks great in this movie. That's it. Well, actually, no. Rewatching this movie, its connections to Wonder Woman in particular actually flow pretty well into that movie. Unlike all the other Justice League cast members who got their own movies. But yeah, that's it. That's all the positives. There ain't much here. Let's start. I guess since I'm talking about the Justice League part, let's start about that. So this was like a big setup for the Justice League movie. It was really fucking terrible at that because basically she goes into an email and you see all the cameos and they're all like people or he goes into whatever. They go into an email and they see all the cameo lists, and you're like, what the fuck? Why is it like this? Wonder Woman just kind of shows up, does some stuff, then leaves, and you're like, okay, this is what we're doing. And it was also like really annoying that they spoil Wonder Woman being in the movie. It's also a weird setup for Justice League because at the end of this movie, Superman fucking dies. And I know that's a very famous storyline in the comics, so I'm sure a lot of people already knew he was coming back, and they do tease that in the credits. But it's really fucking stupid to be like the second movie in this franchise and killing off Superman to tease a Justice League movie where you know he has to be in it. There is like no world where they would have ever made a Justice League movie without him being in it. I think there's a huge possibility one day in the MCU that we will see Robert Downey Jr. back as Iron Man, and we will see Chris Evans back to Captain America possibly, or something like that, right? And that's great if that ever happens. Whatever they decide to do, we'll see how it works out. But all I'm saying is, at least at that point, they left those characters dead for a long time. It has been multiple years. It's been about like 6 years since that movie came out and those characters left our screens like that. So when you're talking about genuinely not when you're talking about like doing it 2 movies in, it's just like, why are we doing this? You can't even leave him dead for a good portion of the movie. And then it means that the Justice League movie gets hurt because it has to be like a lot of time trying to get Superman revived and explain why he's here and what he's doing, and also it's just terrible setup for a Justice League movie because in this movie, you see like that Superman's a really angry, pissed off guy, and he's very different in the theatrical cut of Justice League and in the Snyder cut, but they have to explain why he's more hopeful, and it just makes this whole situation with that movie a whole fucking mess watching this one, which I'm down for. Superman being in a Justice League movie, of course, but yeah, that's something I want to get out of the way. I don't want to spend too much time on that because if I spend too much time on that, I'm just talking about setup for another movie that didn't work when I'm trying to review this movie by itself. But it's kind of really hard with this movie because most of this movie is setting up other things that did not pay off. But if we judge it by a movie by itself, it's bad. First of all, it's way too long. I watched the Ultimate Edition, but if you don't watch the Ultimate Edition, there's scenes that are cut out of the movie that are crucial plot points to the movie, and yet it still feels like there's plot points missing from the movie because, like, Batman kills people in this movie. And there's a lot of fans who justify it. We're saying, like, oh, look, they're hinting that Robin may have died in this universe, and that's why Batman became all jaded and started killing people. I'm sorry. If that's not in the movie, it's not canon. Like, it's just not. I'm not going to read into background details. And also just because I don't fully believe that Zack Snyder meant it that way. Because if Zack Snyder meant it that way, then why in every interview is he defending Batman killing people and not using that as a way to explain it? Like, I think that's just fans reading into stuff. Like, Batman killing people, it's just bad. And it's not to say Batman's never killed people. In Batman movies, I think people forget that, Batman was throwing people in bats of acid in Batman in 89. And it's a problem I have with that movie. And it's problems I have with Batman Returns in some regard. But here, it's just not great. Like, it's also just really fucked up, his murdering. Like, it's like, to the point where it's really like, what the fuck? Like, he's branding people of like, hey, you dealt with Batman, so they'll just get fucking murdered in prison, and like, fuck that shit. Why are you going this far? Like, he's just acting like an asshole. He's like running over people with his Batmobile and blowing up shit, and it's just like, what the fuck? Batman would never act like this. And Superman is really bad in this movie. The bat is dead, bury it. And you're like, why in the world would you ever write Superman like that? I mean, at least with Man of Steel, there was an attempt to get Superman right. Like, there are moments where I guess maybe I could have seen the attempt they were going for, but like, here it's just like they just were like, he's angry and brooding and pissed off. And then it's like Batman and Superman fighting. The whole reason they're fighting, like, I don't even know how to explain why they're fighting. Like, and then it just like, it isn't really a fight. It just ends really quickly because Doomsday shows up, who looks like a giant turd. And I'm just like, what? I'm just... And then it's like, the whole plot of this movie to address Man of Steel with, like, Bruce Wayne stuff, thought that was interesting, but I'm like, yo, like, it just makes both these characters just seem really awkward. And it's also like, it's just so silly. I'm so done with it. And then, gotta get to the worst part about this movie. Lex Luthor, his whole thing does not make any sense, where he's like getting Zod's body and doing all this weird shit. I'm like, how do you even really know this and any of this is gonna work? And it's also like, why do you gotta use... Why don't you just cut off Zod's hand at that point? You don't need to drag the body and just use it. Like, it's weird. And Jesse Eisenberg is such a terrible choice to be Lex Luthor. He is easily worst Lex Luthor we've ever had. He is so goofy, over the top. I think somebody just watched him in The Social Network, said, oh, he plays a evil billionaire in that movie, or I guess a guy who becomes an evil billionaire. And to be fair, he could play that character if you know what you're doing, but clearly Zack Snyder didn't know what he was doing. And, it's like, it's not even that he doesn't have his bald head, which, like, you don't do Lex Luthor without his bald head, guys. I know they did in the 78 movie, but, like, it's not. It's just, I don't even know. At least with Man of Steel, I could say, like, oh, the score was good. I don't like the score here. It's bad. The movie just is all over the place. It's a mess. It's overly long. And every time I watch this movie, I feel nasty by the end of it. And what I mean by that is this movie feels so mean-spirited with the way it deals with Superman and Batman and just all these plot lines, all this stuff. It just feels so angry and mean-spirited all the time that I just don't feel good after I watch this movie. I kind of just feel done with everything. And yeah, I honestly freaking hate this movie, genuinely. Every time I have to watch it, I am pissed off, and I never want to watch it again. Genuinely. I just never want to watch this movie ever again. And I'm sorry my dogs are going off. That is a sure sign I need to go. But, yeah, fuck this movie. Fuck it.